And this evening we are gathered to remember 6 members of the staff of the Department of Justice who died during the year. And to this we will also add the recent death of Dr. John Harbeson, who was the state pathologist for 30 years. He was involved in many high cases, including the case of Sophie Tuscan de Plantier, the Kerry babies, Father Niall Malloy. Before serving as the first forensic pathologist in the country, he lectured in medical jurisprudence at Trinity College, Dublin, and in the early 1990s he was appointed Professor of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology next door at the Royal College of Surgeons, and he retired from the Department of Justice in 2003. We've also come to honour and thank members of staff who have retired during the year. And we're also going to reflect on how all our lives have been changed during this past year. We're going to begin with some music. Our opening words this evening are, "We bid you welcome who come to remember, who come in grief, who come sad or weary. We bid you welcome who have reached a new part in your life's journey. We hope the years ahead will be filled with fresh adventures and much joy. We bid you welcome who are taking time out from work on this, the darkest day of the year, to remember deceased colleagues and to extend good wishes to retiring ones. And we also remember people who we know who are ill at this time. We gather in remembrance of lives past. We gather in gratitude for co-workers whose commitment and company brightened our working days. We light our chalice in remembrance and as a sign of hope. And we light it in defiance of COVID. Our first reading is from that lovely Irish writer John O'Donoghue, and it's called A Blessing for Retirement, and Anne is our reader.
This is where your life has arrived. After all the years of effort and toil, look back with graciousness and thanks on all your great and quiet achievements. You stand on the shore of new invitation to open your life to what is left undone. Let your heart enjoy a different rhythm when drawn to the wonder of other horizons. Have the courage for a new approach to time. Allow it to slow until you find freedom, to draw alongside the mystery you hold and befriend your own beauty of soul. Now is the time to enjoy your heart's desire, to live the dreams you've waited for, to awaken the depths beyond your work and enter into your infinite source.
To the rapidly changing situation. The amazing dedication and resilience of our colleagues in the health service and our own Garda Síochána has rightly been recognised, and we'll continue to support them. And as an organisation, the whole civil service also rose to this challenge. We didn't get everything right, but so much good work has been done amid novel working conditions. We've grown accustomed to seeing kitchens, spare rooms and attics as people juggle the pressure own, and I know that has been equally difficult in a different way. And given the nature of our work, others have been travelling into the offices regularly throughout the whole year, and I'm exceptionally grateful to all of you. This service usually forms one of the annual highlights as we gather to remember those gone with our retired colleagues. This year, sadly, we couldn't invite you all to attend in person, but we wanted to mark the occasion, and so HR kindly put this together, and I'm very grateful to Mary and the HR team to putting the virtual event together with the assistance of Reverend Spain, and also thanks to Miriam and Joan for providing the lovely music this evening. For all our great colleagues who've retired over the last year, this should have been a time to celebrate and reconnect with old friends. We had to put that on hold for now, but we wish you good health and happiness as you navigate settling into a new phase of life and retirement. And that John O'Donoghue piece captured that beautifully. We thank you for your work and friendship and hope you take with you good memories of your time in the department. I'm conscious this year has been full of challenges for longer retired colleagues. It's been difficult and frustrating, and even at times frightening, as people missed family and grandchildren and just a bit of normality. And during this time, also, several retirees passed away, and we didn't get a chance to gather to convey, in the uniquely Irish way, our sympathy and solidarity with their families. So we want to remember them especially here today, and among those who died were Paul Memory, Gay Harris, Mary Calnan, Brian Minnock, Dodo McSweeney, and just this past weekend, as you've heard, Professor John Harbeson. And our most senior retiree, if you'll forgive me singling out somebody, Paddy Terry, died in September, having celebrated his 100th birthday with some style just before lockdown in March. It was a privilege to mark his centenary earlier in the year with a Distinguished Service Award celebrating his unparalleled 70 years of public service in the department and the Parliamentary Council's office. Ní Eicimid a leithe d'arís. Very sadly, as you've heard, we'll also remember and mourn in a very special way 6 colleagues who died in service in the last 12 months, and Jack being the 7th. In a few moments, we'll hear more about each of them in remembrances penned by colleagues who knew them well. I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to their families, friends and colleagues who had to endure the challenge of grieving their untimely loss within the restrictions of the public health guidelines, and now they face a first Christmas like no other before. In these extraordinary times, please know that we are thinking of you and that your loved ones were also loved by their colleagues, as their tributes will show in a moment. We send our warmest wishes and condolences to their families and to the families of all those who've died. May they rest in peace. I wish everyone, whether serving or retired, the very best of health and happiness in 21, and hope that a brighter future and a vaccine awaits us all. The department will continue to carry on, masked and safely distanced, with the vital work that we do on behalf of the public we serve. But for now, I hope everyone can enjoy the festive season, and at a future date that we'll see each other and make up for some lost time. Gurv Mahagad and Happy Christmas.
As Una has just said, it is strange times, and here we are remembering our dead with a Christmas tree lighting beside us. It is just one of those years. I'm going to read out tributes written by colleagues and friends of deceased members of staff. Then we're going to invite other people to bring up a candle and light it in their honour. First person I'm going to talk about this afternoon is Tom Barry. Thomas Barry, or Tom as he was known to us, joined the department as a clerical officer in the Immigration Service during the summer of 2016, after a brief period as a temporary clerical officer of Employment Affairs and Social Protection, both of which no doubt benefited from the logistic and team-working skills Tom brought from his former career as a member of the Defence Forces. A valued worker and colleague to those in the Immigration Service, Tom formed many friendships and provided support and guidance to many of his colleagues, new and old alike, who will have learned a lot from him during the past 4 years. Tom was promoted to Executive Officer in the autumn of 2019, but regrettably was not able to join our team in his new role. Whether it was his storytelling about his cooking tips to his colleagues, he will be fondly remembered. Our condolences to his wife, children, grandchildren, friends and former colleagues across the department, the wider civil service and the Defence Forces. And that's from his colleagues in EU treaty. Do you describe the late and great Terry MacDonald, son, brother, husband, father, uncle, cousin, friend, pal, colleague, neighbour, an all-around good person? Terry was like a breath of fresh air to most people he met. When I met him in 1979, I met a funny, positive, friendly, loyal and football-mad friend who remained so for over 40 years. Anyone who knew Terry knew the real loves in his life were his 3 children, Lawrence, Anna and Robin, and his undying love for Arsenal, the Dubs, the Irish football team, and his beloved Bohemians, or as Terry would say, I have to try this, the Bows. His support and loyalty to Nafina, the club his girls played for, was added to the list. Terry was the most positive person I have ever met. He had so much to give, and his passing this year has left a huge void in many people's lives, not least his cherished children, of whom he was so proud, and his best friend, Mary, his sister. Terry bore his illness with great dignity and kept from most people just how ill he was, so it was a real shock to most people when he was admitted to the hospice in July. It is such a pity that due to the COVID-19 restrictions, Terry was denied the many visitors who wanted to visit him since March this year. Terry left us all way too soon, but his memory will certainly live on. Sleep well, pal, until we meet again. And that's from Mary O'Brien, IPO. This is Terry MacDonald, Part 2. I first knew Terry through his infamous ORAC lunchtime football sessions. Terry stood out as a result of his impressive work rate, the constant chirping throughout, and the threadbare Bose jersey that we were pretty sure got placed in his kit bag after every game, ready to use again the following week. I first worked with Terry in the most interesting of circumstances, as we were both posted to the visa office in India together. I'd been there for around a year and a half before Terry's arrival, and in showing him the ropes, so to speak, I got to know him far better than would have been expected in the normal role at home. That's the nature of foreign postings. You live out of each other's pockets. Terry adapted to life in India very quickly and took the challenges in his stride. His lack of ego, his good humour and his sense of devilment and adventure meant that he quickly made friends with everyone he met, from Irish colleagues to expats and to Indian friends, including his local work colleagues. To say his Indian co-workers adored him is an understatement. They supported him through the early stages of his illnesses and mourned with the rest of us from afar when Terry passed away. We're all part of a Memories of Terry WhatsApp group, and pictures that show up on Facebook timelines and funny stories continue to be shared. Everybody has funny stories about Terry. He was that sort of person. He was hugely knowledgeable about sport and was obsessed with Bohemians, Dublin GAA, Arsenal and Ireland. His stories about trips following the Ireland team were regularly trotted out and were never short of enthralling. Terry told them with the most matter-of-fact way, blissfully unaware of how interesting or off the wall they were. When Terry first arrived in Delhi, he spent the usual few weeks in a very plush hotel before his long-term accommodation was found. This working-class, true-blue, Northside Dubliner quickly found the luxury of living like this to his liking. Given the heat and the dust levels he'd never experienced before, when he found out that the staff of the hotel would draw a bath for him and sprinkle rose petals everywhere free of charge, it quickly became a daily treat for Terry. That was until he slipped getting out of the bath and broke his arms, all of 2 weeks having arrived in India. In fairness to him, he barely skipped a beat and was in work the next day with a colourful cast and an impish grin. Terry's love of his kids shone through. He was always talking about them and their achievements, and he continued at banking, and every couple of days would ring up his bank in Dublin and ask them to move 100 quid into Lawrence's account or Robin's or Anna's account. After this had happened several times, I asked him a couple of questions. One, is there not an easy way to move that money around? And my other question was, will you be my dad? When I came back from India, myself and Terry kept in touch, and working in HR, I was privileged to be able to assist him in a small way during his long battle with his illness. The huge tributes to him are a testament to him and how highly he was not just regarded but loved by so many of his friends and colleagues. He will be missed, but he will not be forgotten. And that's from Stephen Walsh in HR. Sandra Hughes Murphy is our next tribute. It is so fitting that we have this opportunity again to remember our good friend and colleague, Sandra Hughes Murphy, who sadly passed away only recently in November after a long illness that she bore bravely. Everyone has the same thing to say about Sandra, in that she will always be remembered for her great sense of humour. She had one of those infectious laughs that would ring out throughout the Reg office, lifting everyone's spirits. Sandra kept her sense of humour right throughout her illness and never once complained. In fact, she was in contact up to very recently, before her passing, with many of her friends in the office. We send our sincere condolences today to her husband James and to the extended Hughes and Murphy families. The family asked that at this sad time of Sandra's passing, that everyone would light a candle in Sandra's memory. This service today for retired and deceased members of the Department of Justice, we will now light another candle for Sandra. As we cannot attend this service in person today, we would like to thank you for organising this tribute from all of us here in Burkey Registration Office. May Sandra rest in peace. Michael Garvey. Michael Garvey was a brilliant colleague, a fantastic team member, a brilliant friend and an absolute gentleman. He was a remarkable and conscientious colleague who never failed to support those around him and who would go out of his way to help others without any hesitation and to never say a word about it. He was just a pleasure to work with and made even the most daunting task seems approachable with his can-do attitude and endless enthusiasm. With a hugely impressive general knowledge, a kind heart and a warm smile, it was no wonder that everyone that knew Michael held him in such high regard. As we approach his first anniversary, all of Michael's former colleagues from across the department would like Adrian, Rory, Niall and the extended family to know that Michael will never be forgotten by those who had the honour and privilege to work with him, and our thoughts are with them at this time. Gráinne Carroll. Gráinne wasn't just a work colleague, she was a friend, a confidant and a fantastic mother to her two sons. She had a great relationship with her mother, and her stories of their travels in the camper van were a highlight for everyone. Gráinne's work ethic was second to none, and we will never forget her warm heart, her dry sense of humour, her stories, the time she always made for us, and the pretzel she shared. She always ensured everyone was involved and looked after. Gráinne had a great sense of humour, a distinguishable and infectious laugh that would immediately brighten your day and have everyone laughing along with her. There's no doubt that a huge void has been left without her round. Gráinne was only with us for a short time in the office, but she left her mark on all her close friends and colleagues. We are all lucky to have known her for the brief time we did. She was one of a kind, and we will miss her. Carol Fitzpatrick. Carol was sadly only with the International Protection Appeals Tribunal for a few short months. Carol was absolutely delighted with her promotion to Assistant Principal of the Department of Justice, arriving from social protection, and was putting her personal touches to her new office. Carol settled in immediately, making friends with all her teams, and was a natural, and of course popular. She was a leader from the start. Our thoughts at Christmas are with her beloved daughter Grace, her dear parents Thomas and Dan, and her sisters Deirdre, Geraldine, her brother Brendan, and all the family. Sadly missed by all her friends in the International Protection Appeals Tribunal and the Department of Justice. And that's from Pat Murphy. They're short thumbnail sketches of people's lives, people's who worked, colleagues, shared your life in the Department of Justice. While we listen to some music now, we're going to invite people to come and light a candle. And our first candle is for Tom Barry. Our second candle is for Terry MacDonald. Our next candle is for Sandra Hughes Murphy. Our next candle is for Michael Garvey. Carol Fitzpatrick. We remember as well today people who are unwell and suffering in any way. The following prayer was written by someone called Chung Ming Kao, written while he was in prison. Lord, I asked you for a bunch of fresh flowers, but instead you gave me an ugly cactus with many thorns. I asked the Lord for some beautiful butterflies, but instead he gave me many ugly and dreadful worms. I was threatened, I was disappointed, I mourned. But after many days, suddenly I saw the cactus bloom with many beautiful flowers, and those worms became the most beautiful butterflies flying in the spring wind. God's ways are indeed strange, but they are best. Amen. Can I now invite Martina to come and read for us?
This is a poem by Joyce Grenfell, Death If I Should Go. If I should go before the rest of you, break not a flower nor inscribe a stone, nor when I'm gone speak in a Sunday voice, but be the usual selves that I have known. Weep if you must, parting is hell, but life goes on, so sing as well.
We're coming to the end of what has turned out to be an exceptionally difficult year. The COVID virus has taken the lives of more than 2,000 Irish citizens, and its presence has impinged on every aspect of every life in this country. It has challenged everyone's mental resilience. It has made us fearful and introspected. In Ireland, Christmas is the time to meet with friends, to visit families, to limit our contacts. So it's an Irish Christmas in reverse we're having. It was marginally easier to deal with COVID in the warm summer days of early summer. Today is the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. With the same certainty that the days will now lengthen and grow warmer again, we know that COVID will pass. And we know that 2021 will bring vaccines. So we have to remember, we're not there yet, but the end is in sight, it's on the horizon. Despite the difficulties, we will now light a candle of gratitude and hope. We are grateful for life, grateful that we live in a country their safety to care for their patients. And we're grateful for technology and we're grateful for Zoom that allows us to meet virtually, and for things like web cameras that allow us to attend church remotely. We look to the future with hope, confident that COVID will end. The more careful we are, the sooner that end will come. And I believe that as a nation we will emerge from this time stronger and more confident in ourselves as a people, and with justified pride in how we have worked together and worked to care for one another. So I'm going to light our last candle this afternoon. And I have a short reading here. It's about resilience. Stress hardiness is how one researcher defines resilience. And since all of us have experienced stress and survived that stress, we all have some resilience. Our lives are a succession of changes, and changes don't come politely at a predictable and manageable rate of 1 per year. Instead, they seem to pile up on each other. But the fact that we are here is a testament to the human ability to cope with change, crisis, growth, grief, and a host of other challenges. But you may not feel resilient enough. You may not feel able to cope with family changes and an uncertain economy all at once. Or you may wonder if you are resilient enough to cope with the loss of family and friends. You may be aware of how much you have weathered in recent times and feel depleted as you face the future. But you can take heart in knowing that we humans are engineered by evolution to deal with stress. Most people, even those who endure extremely stressful losses and most of us bounce back in maybe a longer time. There is no one-size-fits-all prescription for that bouncing back. We all do it in our own time and in our own unique way. Some people will need to talk about it and some don't. Some will become dependent for a time and need the care of others. Most will soldier on. Some will feel extremely emotion and others will be numb. Some few people will need professional help to recover. Spirituality is a major component of our stress hardiness. No matter what your spiritual beliefs are, living according to your beliefs and incorporating a spiritual practice into everyday life is important to your resilience. Worship, meditation, prayer and reflection help us to recover our resilience. Crisis and change are hard work. If we are in the habit of eating properly and exercising, we will be better able to deal with whatever comes our way. Good networks of family, friendship and community support us. They support us through the good times and they're absolutely essential in difficult times. The people around us can shelter us when shock or grief has left us vulnerable. They can remind us that we are not the only person to go through such a trial. They can keep us in touch with our strengths and help us to get us back on our legs. Lovely words that we all need to remember at these strange times. I have a final blessing now before we might hear another piece of music. And beauty. And may a song of thanksgiving and hope be on our lips to the Creator and Sustainer of life. Amen. Lovely, thank you.